It's about the details, reporting and reporting and reporting, talking about each of these attacks, what exactly they're doing, sharing creative samples, because we're not just stopping malvertising. We are stopping bad ads, and that means a lot of different things to different people. Like the kid site doesn't want to be serving beer ads. We had an interesting issue where a toddler...
Gavin Dunaway is the man who spent years cleaning up the mess of malvertising and digital chaos. But when he's not battling fraudsters, he's dreaming of a desert island with David Bowie, Kurt Vonnegut, and a guitar in hand. Today, we're diving into Gavin's journey through ad tech, his rockstar dreams, and how he'd escape the madness. Buckle up. This one's a wild ride.
Troutman, the czar of the TCPA, isn't just the guy you call when your phone rings too much. He's the guy you must call. Need to navigate the legal minefield of robocalls, texts, and telemarketing nightmares? Troutman doesn't just give you advice. He hands you a roadmap, a compass, and a do not press this button sign. Practical? Yes. Actionable? Absolutely. And if you're not calling him first, let's be honest, you're probably making a mistake.
I'm Pace Lucklife and your host for today's conversation. The guest of honor is someone who's tangled with the digital complexities longer than most of us have been streaming cat videos. Gavin Dunaway, marketing director of the Media Trust, cut his teeth at editor at Adotas and then spent nearly a decade at Ad Monsters, crafting conference agendas, moderating panels, and dissecting this messy ecosystem we call digital advertising. These days, he's wielding the marketing megaphones to champion digital trust and safety, slaying malvertising monsters, and ensuring privacy compliance doesn't just sit in a dusty corner. So first of all, how are you doing in this moment with your marketing megaphone at the Media Trust, battling the digital landscape where each ad slot could be an old tactic full of malicious squatters? Sorry, that was a mouthful.
It all was. I was really impressed with the delivery there. It is madness, it is crazy times. Things have changed a great deal. It used to be that the malvertising invasion would kind of slow down during the fourth quarter when CPMs would go up for programmatic ads due to the holiday season. We are not seeing that as much anymore. The seasonal effect of malware. There used to be Q1 would be a great time for malvertisers. They would go nuts. They'd basically try out all their new techniques and tricks. A Q3 would also be a great time because summer, less people behind the helm to watch what they're doing. But Q4 there would be a die-off. Not anymore. We are seeing it all year long, and I think a lot of that has to do with digital advertising, especially desktop display, kind of struggling at the moment for the monetization and revenue for publishers. Advertiser demand has definitely gone down last few years, definitely since inflation took its toll.
So with your Adotas past and those 9 long years of Ad Monsters shaping your insights, is it empowering or nerve-wracking to now be one helping brands lock their digital doors?
That's tough. One of my main things with jumping to the Media Trust, I had spent 9 years at Ad Monsters, and I felt like I just kept leading these panels that were all about how many header bidding partners should we have up there? What's the right combo? What's the right number? And I was just watching the ad experience on sites and just being like, this is miserable. This is awful. How do I actually, affect some change here and create better ad experiences? And, the Media Trust came calling, and I was like, this digital trust and safety thing makes sense, and maybe we can actually make things better for consumers. It's less about locking the doors, because even when we have code on page to block malware and other unwanted ads, we remonetize. We call back to the demand partners, and we get something good in there. So the publishers still make the money.
Yeah, so this industry got more shady characters than a back alley poker game. So
Seriously.
What do you mean by digital trust? Is it like being a digital locksmith, ensuring no psycho with a crowbar sneaks into the club?
It's far more complicated than that.
Sneaks into the code, sorry.
Y'all gonna see me shine, 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 shine. Walking on beams of light, 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 light. Y'all gonna see me shine, 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 shine. I can't help myself, no, no. Blue skies, no dark clouds, nothing in my
sneaks into the code. There is definitely a lot of that, and that is actually a great way to put it, because that's what they do. I'm dealing with one malware outbreak right now where it's just this crazy how they actually execute like a cipher to execute their code, and they take out little bits of repeating text, and that locks in it's like something out of like an Indiana Jones movie where it locks in the magic code, and next thing you know, you got phishing redirects all over your site. But trust for us is about more than that. It's about, rebuilding the relationship between consumers and publishers, consumers and ad tech, consumers and advertisers. There's definitely been a huge loss in trust between all of these parties. And then between publishers, advertisers, and ad tech in general. Publishers can't trust what's coming down the pipes. Advertisers don't feel like they can trust ad tech or publishers. Because they keep running into MFA and stuff like that. Really, it's about, to use the tired term of the moment, transparency. It's about opening the doors up, showing what vendors are on page, what the code is actually doing, who is causing latency, and then providing the consumers good experiences.
With so many different vendors, though, how do publishers who worry that they're basically bringing random strangers on the street, how do you reassure them that your brand safety checks prevent these unwanted guests from flipping the table?
Again, it's about transparency, and it's about the details, reporting, talking about each of these attacks, what exactly they're doing, sharing creative samples, because we're not just stopping malvertising. We are stopping bad ads, and that means a lot of different things to different people, like the kids site doesn't want to be serving beer ads. We had an interesting issue where a toddler-focused TV site was serving condom ads, which was very interesting. I think they were targeting the parents, and as a parent myself, I understand the logic and thinking there. But so what a bad ad is really jumps from site to site, publisher to publisher, ad tech vendor to ad tech vendor. Really, we're giving them control, and that involves giving them the transparency to see what exactly are my partners sending me? Where is it coming from? Creative ideas, all the details they need to make informed decisions. Because yes, we do a fair deal of blocking, but a lot of it is about giving our clients more power over the kind of ad content experiences they want the end users to have.
How much is legacy tags and zombie ad tech?
Zombie ad tech is a big problem. I like to say that the internet's littered with the corpses of defunct ad companies, ones that went out of business. Sorry, that's the Apple thing. I should have turned it off.
I have Apple too. I think I must have it turned it off too.
Yeah, that was wise. But the corpses of all these defunct ad companies, well, their domains just stay on publisher sites. They don't have any idea, or they're hooked up into URL syncs. These things can easily be taken over by threat actors. All they have to do is buy a defunct domain, and the next thing you know, random sites are serving redirects. Never would have expected, because the ad isn't even coming through the ad server. It's coming through that URL sync. Really interesting. This year we saw one of the biggest explosions of malware we've ever seen, because there's a open source JavaScript library called Polyfill, and this was on more than 100,000 sites around the world. Major brand advertisers. I'm going to keep their names silent to avoid them embarrassment. So this open source library was taken over by bad actors, a Chinese hacker group, and next thing you know, it's serving malware all over kids' sites, no matter where, everywhere. And publishers, advertisers, it doesn't matter. They have old code on their pages that get taken over. Next thing you know, you have data breaches, and even worse.
So I have a note to ask you about the SOS Golish malware and what that is, and how you guys have blocked it.
Man, that thing has been a menace to email, to search, and now it is making its rounds on digital display advertising. So basically, it is the quintessential drive-by download. Like, if this thing pops up on your computer, it's just going to download something that's going to infect your device and set you up for a later attack, say a ransomware, worse if that's possible. So
this is a Russian hacker group. It's evil group, right?
That is one of them. The problem is that they get passed around. They sell the code, and you can have different types of people pick this up. The the barrier of entry to do malware and do malvertising is ridiculously low, especially when CPMs are next to nothing on certain sites. But so one of the biggest problems here is, especially in October, one of the groups figured out a massive WordPress hack. One of the chief parts of the CMS, they were able to infiltrate it, and we had most random advertisers, brands, hacked landing pages, and they are spreading this thing. They're spreading this thing far and wide. Now, yeah, with our code on publisher pages, we can stop the ads before they even render. But there is a problem that not everybody is examining landing pages. And landing pages is a great way for threat actors to deliver the malvertising and also not pay for advertising. Let the advertiser do the work, yeah, and it's very economical. I gotta salute them on that front.
So, a multiple question here. If TMT's tools were a kitchen gadget, what fits best? A garlic press that crushes maladvertising stench out of the ecosystem? B, a can opener that never breaks, letting you see inside suspicious code? Or C, a whisk that blends compliance, safety, and trust into a fluffy digital souffle?
Wow. I love those, and it is kind of all three. But let me take that back, because with the Media Trust, we have two core products, and that's what all of our solutions are built off of. One is Media Scanner, and this is a giant global infrastructure that we've been building out for 20 years. Yes, this company is 20 years old. We are absolute dinosaurs. I mean, just like Google and Microsoft and Yahoo, if we can even call Yahoo as it currently is. Does it resemble what it once was? It's doing great from what I hear, though. But massive global infrastructure of real devices, emulators all over the world. We are very similar to Google in the way we go crawling, searching for malware. Google's indexing content, we're looking for malware. So I like with that one, the can opener. That definitely makes a lot of sense there. But at the same time, we're not just necessarily looking for malware. Our clients actually use us to look for privacy compliance violations. We are not a consent management system, but we do verify that the consent management system is working as proper. We have audience profiles, ones that are consented, ones that have not made a decision, and ones that have non-consented, and we can tell you exactly with each of those profiles what is going on with all your vendors on your site. And we can also, and as you said, the whisk, mixing this all together. And what was the first one? It was a good one.
A garlic press to get rid of, the code vampires.
Yes. I like that. Easy way to kind of slice off the bad parts and only get in the meat and get the revenue that you want. I will take that. I was thinking, I kind of like to also, it's not really a kitchen appliance, but we do have a bunch of like electric fly zappers in our, for those fruit flies in our kitchen.
Yeah, I have one over at studio.
Man, those things are all over the place. But our media filter that's the real-time blocking script. And that one is kind of like, the fly zapper and definitely the garlic press. Scanner, have you ever wanted an x-ray machine in your kitchen?
No, not really.
I haven't thought about that either, but I kind of wonder if they could be useful.
Yeah, so I noticed that you mentioned that elderly are special targets, and it reminds me, my mother has a PhD, and yet she calls me up and says that there was a pop-up on her computer that told her to call a number. And at 90 years old, she called that number, and I had to work with Wells Fargo to secure her account. And I told her, I said, of all the people I've told you for 30 years, she said, you just thought it was technical support. So how bad is it for the elderly?
That is awful. We have, with the Media Scanner, we make profiles that look like senior citizens, and we also have access to certain areas that are heavily elder populations. And yeah, we notice, and I hate the thumbs up coming there, it's definitely thumbs down. We notice that they are receiving. Oh yeah, it'll work, maybe.
Oh yes, it worked.
Yes, they are. So almost all of this malware is using some form of cloaking, so it only appears in its target environment. They use fingerprinting, code sniffing to realize that you are their target match. They do this to evade companies like mine, and also just, why would they waste a good malicious payload? They know when somebody is an elderly person. They know when somebody is a senior citizen. They're targeting them. We see the same piece of code doesn't react to a device that's programmed like a middle-aged person, but senior citizen for sure. It's so massive, they're making films about it.
Right.
The Beekeeper with Jason Statham, that's the key part of the plot. Yeah, and who, of all people? It's Felicia Rashad. It's Mrs. Huxtable herself. The scammers are after her. I mean, that was an expert piece of casting right there. But it's incredible, and those tech support scams, we saw a massive rise in them in October. We also saw a massive rise right after the U.S. election, and they were hitting the political sites in particular. Like a week after, on the night of the election, we had an incredible, massive rise in malware blocking especially on news sites, and that's just such a drag because that's brand safety blocking. News sites have tons and tons of inventory. They're trying to put it out there to get monetized, and they can't get the CPMs they deserve for it because brands are like, oh, no, I don't want to appear next to Trump. I don't want to do political stuff. Brands are missing key opportunities to hit the audiences they want, and then publishers are getting
Right.
They're helping attack consumers. So it's a rough situation out there in the digital media landscape, and
How much is foreign actors? Like,
majority.
How much is just foreign actors, but how much is Russia and former Soviet bloc countries?
A lot of Eastern European stuff is where it's originating. We definitely see a lot of fly-by-night DSPs popping up in any of those Eastern Bloc countries, and definitely
I've
lot
seen
of
a
Russia.
lot coming from Lithuania. A lot.
That was the name that was on the tip of my tongue.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, Lithuania, and I'm trying to remember all my.
Latvia.
There's a man. Latvia is another one, and we know that there's some kind of relationship with the governments and the Russian government in particular, because a couple years ago, right before the invasion of Ukraine, something was going on. We all knew there was a massive buildup on the border, so we took our infrastructure of devices, we took our devices in Ukraine, and when we upped it and just went hunting for malware, explosion. Absolute explosion of malware. And in particular, this one phishing attack that we call Ghost Cat, other providers called Scam Club, it just took off. And so we were like, because we were pretty sure that some of these guys are state people. They're paid by governments to enact chaos where they can. And on top of that, the main rule is they can make a buck, and they can go sell stuff on the dark web as long as they leave the Russians alone. Every time you see one of these cyber guys, one of the threat actors start attacking Russians, that's when the Russian government steps in.
So if Bad Ants were a band, what would be its stage name? The Redirect Rascals, Fishing and the Phonies, or Cold Clowns from Outer Space? Which fits, and how does naming the band help us understand their tactics?
Oh, I like that second one. What was that?
Fishing and the Phonies.
Fishing and the Phonies.
I might actually buy that album, but on a very secure site.
I like that. I thought because I was thinking about this question, and originally I thought we were talking about like an existing artist, and the first name that came to my mind was the punk rocker G.G. Allen.
Right.
Who is famous for pooping on stage and then taking his feces and flinging it. Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that seems a lot like Bad Actors, yeah. If
TMT is on the front lines, where are the big players like Google, anti-competitive? Wait. So where's Google? That's my question.
Where is Google? And that is a good question as well, and something I think a lot of us in the industry have been wondering, because we saw a massive rise, not just in display advertising, also in search ads. Over the last few years, the reports of all the scams being run and people getting defrauded by companies that were masking as other brands, just skyrocketed. There was even a Nandini Jami, who runs, the ex-Sleeping Giants and Check My Ads. Yeah, she posted on Twitter about how she got fooled, and it wasn't basically an exact copy with a little typo squatting to fool you. So
I think the only time I got fooled was I was registering a corporation in a new state, and I just wrote like Colorado Corporation, and I didn't notice it was not the official site, and of course it was the filing fee plus another $1,000. And then once I found out, I contested it, and I pointed out the site looked like the original. It happens to anyone. We're all so busy that it's hard to notice everything.
Of course, and that's what they're counting on. It's the same deal with the attacks on senior citizens. They're counting on you just not paying that much attention. They're counting on senior citizens being scared of like, oh no, I don't want a terrible thing to happen to my computer, and they actually do. It's but Google, Google thinks Google is Google. They think they have things under control, and that is definitely not the case, especially when you are so big as that, I also just believe that third parties should be out there. There should be specialists. We have more than a dozen malware analysts at the desks constantly looking at code, and this is all they do. And this is what we have. I mean, they can have a team, but everything we've learned from the Google antitrust trial, it's a massive organization, and teams don't talk to each other. People don't know stuff. This happens in almost every organization. It seems to me a great reason to have a third party and have specialists.
So, summarizing a future-facing soundbite, the lesson we need to remember, so this talk on malvertising feels like a wake-up call in 3 months.
Oof. 3 months. Right now, we are dealing with a particularly nasty new thing that we are calling string ripper that takes existing advertisements from legit advertisers, and basically kind of swallows them and regurgitates them. It's an infection of ad tags, and it is extremely hard to track down, and it's very good at evading things. I think what about trust and safety? I think advertisers need to wake up and realize that they are part of this question too. This is part of the brand safety question because their brands are being hijacked, and they're going to see it more and more where people think that Corporation X sent me that piece of malware, Corporation Y defrauded me. This is part of their problem too, and they need to be more insistent about the partners they work with, especially the buying platforms, about checking all the inventory that is going through their pipes, scrutinizing it heavily. Because it is quite easy the barrier to entry to be a malvertiser, extremely low. Just buy something, an exploit kit off of the dark web, set up a campaign, and next thing you know, you can do it through Google if you really feel like it.
So you spent almost a decade at Ad Monsters, and you said that you felt on the sidelines. What do you mean by that?
I felt like I was kind of, I was a moderator of conversations, and I could set up dialogues and have different people speaking, put together a debate, but at the same time, I just felt like I wasn't actually, in there, pushing for change. Even with, it was funny with the whole Google antitrust case that's been going on in DC. When I read the first witness list, I was like, oh my gosh, that's an Ad Monsters conference from 7-8 years ago. I had all these people, and I would have conversations with analysts and other people and lawyers asking me about how is it that what is Google doing with dynamic allocation, last look, stuff like that, and I would explain, but I felt like I couldn't actually do anything. And, the people who were speaking at the trial, those were the real witnesses. I just heard their stories and repeated them. I wanted to be one of them. I wanted to be somebody who was actually involved, working, and I thought the best way to do that was work for one of the tech vendors. Actually try to change the way media operates and is monetized, because I didn't like the way it was headed. And even still, it's a really rough moment, especially for display advertising, with the traffic squeeze from social media just kind of shutting down its doors. It's, I saw Jeff Green from Trade Desk talk at the ExchangeWire ATS conference, and he gave a bold face about the fight for the free and open web. But boy, it's not looking all that rosy at the moment. I'm trying to keep my optimism up, but it's tough.
So how did your editorial background affect how you work at TMT?
I think one of the main things for me was, as a journalist, I always thought my job, and from the time I was working at Adotas, was okay, I have a bunch of marketing people spewing nonstop buzzwords at me. What are they actually doing? What does this tech do? And, after a while in there, I would be okay, parse through this, parse through that. And, this is you just rebranded the same technology that you put out 2 years ago. And got some graphic designer to make a new logo. Great. So I ended up bringing that to the other side, because I always wished marketers had just been a bit more transparent, less relying on buzzwords. And so I was we need to be as open as possible with our clients and tell them exactly what we're doing and everything we're doing. I think especially for a digital trust and safety company like us, the special sauce is the people. Our technology, we should be boasting about it because, wow, it's big. It's massive. I can't believe, I think we are in 120 countries, more than 600 locations. It's absolutely incredible, but we don't have to hide this stuff. We don't have to use buzzwords and make things seem scarier than they are, especially because a lot of the malvertising, especially social Golish in particular, or those tech scams we were talking about, it's pretty scary to begin with. We should be as honest and as helpful as possible.
So some might say that marketing is the dark side. What is one crazy opinion you have about how marketing done right could actually be the Jedi Knight of consumer protection?
Well, I'm going to unfortunately repeat myself a little bit, and I think it's, I found one of the most interesting things I end up doing is translating. And, I did the same when ad tech product people were chatting with me over the years at Adotas and Ad Monsters. I was just like, okay, I need to turn this into not even layman terms. I mean, with Ad Monsters, I had product people who were trying to talk to ad ops people. And, ad ops people are technical, but they're not technical to the level of product people. So, yeah, it was all about making it actually metaphors, just simple English, and getting away from the buzzwords, trying to get away from the acronyms. Unfortunately, I think I might have created one or two. But with marketing, I think it's that simple. Don't think of ourselves as trying to put on a show and dance. Think of ourselves as trying to just be honest and having an honest conversation with people. Because, with all the massive bullshit out there that we hit in every spot every day, people actually warm up to being told the truth. Things made just simple and maybe even a little blunt. Basically being treated like humans? Weird. Not products.
So I want to move to a different vibe. Picture yourself marooned on a desert island, no Wi-Fi, no tags, and no malvertising. Sorry, I can never pronounce it right. Let's talk survival. You would have 5 people to come with you. Who would they be?
Alright, well, I gotta go with David Gilmour, as I'm a guitarist in my side life, and David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, my favorite guitar player of all time, the master of time and space, and just a beautiful player. I'm also a massive David Bowie fan, so I would definitely want the two of them, and there's a wonderful video of them playing Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd. Strongly suggest it. Then I'm a literature guy in my side life, and I love Kurt Vonnegut to death. His ability to blend science fiction ideas, humor, as well as kind of go in and out of vulgar prose. Just unmatched in my opinion. And so what, I got 3 out of 5 there? I'd be in trouble if I didn't say my wife and my daughter.
So what do you mean by choosing these 5? How would they shape your daily routine?
Oh man, well, I know we're not allowed to have any Wi-Fi, but I do hope we could have power so we could have some jam sessions. I would like electric guitars if I could, but I could long days of just jamming on acoustic guitars is fine with me, and I could just probably talk to Kurt Vonnegut all day long. I would love just a kind of quiet island life. Kind of reminds me of my wife is from Italy, and when we go out. It was very new to me being American. I'm used to vacations where all right, we must see as many national parks and monuments as possible in the shortest amount of time. The
Italy,
Italians.
you must eat as much as you can.
Exactly.
From one restaurant to another.
Oh yes, and definitely you must try the wine in each region, each small town. And of course, when you buy from the local vineyard, it is usually €5. So it's pretty nice. So yeah. That taught me, how to relax and sit back and, I do letting my creative juices fly when I can. And, I think it would be a lot about just having fun.
Yeah, so with no ad tech drama, how would that experience affect your perspective on what really matters?
Well, with no ad tech drama and let's say no internet, no...
I guess we have to have electricity, as you mentioned.
Not necessarily. Could totally just do acoustic guitars, and I think it would make me reappreciate probably the arts, music. My wife is a graphic designer and illustrator. Had lots of work in the New York Times, and she also does all the artwork for my band's albums and such. Even a couple of animated videos. Yeah, because, sometimes with the internet, we've kind of lost touch with, I think, the simpler art forms. Simpler now. But, music, literature, I would love if I could just spend all my time contemplating that. I do love journalism. I love chasing a story. And even as, a marketing person, I go to conferences constantly, and I try to cover it like journalism. Because I gotta scratch that itch. So yeah, probably at some point I'd need the ad tech conflict. I'd miss the where's Google Net now? Have they broken it up or not?
So do your industry skills translate to foraging and shelter building?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I'm pretty good with WordPress. I can build you a nice landing page, but I bought a house in the last year and am discovering that I have no home improvement skills whatsoever. I did fix one toilet, and I was really proud of that. I'm learning a lot on that. So no, I'm afraid these are not foraging. Working in ad tech has not built up any of that.
Do you think you'd stay after 3 months or come or?
That is a good question. It depends on, if David Bowie and I had too many fights over who was the bigger diva. I think I would like to disconnect.
Yeah. So you
even
got
though
you got a rock side life. You toured while prepping ad monsters, and now you write songs about the industry. If you had one superpower like David Gilmour's guitar tone or lightning fast typing, how would you use it to shape the media landscape into something that you'd brag about on stage?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, if I did have that lightning fast typing, I think I could do a lot of probably do a lot more industry analysis and opinion sharing. People have asked me why haven't you started the blog, and why is Ari Paparo doing marketecture and you're not? I had other things I wanted to work on. But yeah, no, I would use it to try to inform more people, and right now I am just pretty much preoccupied with not just the digital threats, though. That is, it does consume me just because it grows more complicated every day, and the more information that's shared, I think, the better. But also a lot of what we're doing with automating QA, stuff like that. Retail media kind of gets into that sector because. And yeah, I would love sharing more about retail media and every retailer I talk with, because it is one of the most exciting things that's happened in our industry in so long. I mean, and who would ever think it, like basically an intermediary coming in and actually being good for most of the other parties? It's so weird. We've been trying to disintermediate this space forever, and who knew there was actually space for somebody else?
You've also said retail media is a little bit stale. What do you mean by that?
That's true. It's, retailers in general, these big companies, the change is often really slow. This year at the retail media conferences, I felt like I kept hearing about the same stuff, and a lot of it was like advertisers complaining about measurement. This standardization that the IAB is working on, from what I understand, there's still a lot of arguing. They do put on a brave face and say like, oh yeah, we're getting there, we're getting there. But I hear also that, the brands aren't happy, the retailers aren't happy, they feel like they're not as able to, it's too structured, that they can't show unique benefits. And also the idea of standardizing incrementality is just really, really difficult. It really kind of means something different to each party. And then the other thing is just the idea that there's too many players, too many retail media networks in the space, and it's hard to buy. It's hard to buy them. Retailers don't want to just go like publishers and just open everything up to anybody who wants to buy, because they care a lot about consumers, and they care about the ad experience. They want to be in control, because the other thing you have to understand is that this is not like a huge profit center for any retailer. It is really just going to be driving sales. If any kind of advertising hurts that core retail business, that's a disaster. For a lot of these retailers, all the retail media does is it fuels their marketing efforts. Any incremental revenue there, it's going right back to the marketing budget. So right. It's just a completely different landscape than we've been used to with publishers. It's taking longer to figure out than I was hoping. Definitely, you have the big players, the Walmarts. I mean, Amazon is the OG, and they still dominate. I think something like 77 to 78% of all retail media is them. Right. Targets are coming up. Kroger, of course, makes lots of noise. But there's so much more opportunity. It's really, the next problem is just the ease of buying it. And also, a lot of the, more and more publisher ad ops people, media, I was going to say legends, but there are some media legends here and there. But, really veterans are coming into the retail media fold. A lot of stuff, it's deja vu. You're like, oh, wow, this is like 12 years ago. Right. And the advancements are just taking a little bit slower. I would love to hear some new and interesting things. Programmatic is, of course, the big it would be golden to see the ability to programmatically buy inventory that matches products. It's possible. I mean, Critio's done some great progress there. I know Cody has got some interesting plans on that department, but yeah, maybe it's just we've gotten used to too much rapid fire stuff. It's strange since Google decided they weren't demising the cookie. It feels like all of a sudden it's like, what do we do now? We were planning.
You once said that advertisers must accept less than perfect attribution. What does that mean?
For years, I heard advertisers scoffing at the idea of media mix modeling, but now it is everywhere. Advertisers kind of got sold a bill of goods with digital advertising. They said perfect measurement, one-to-one messaging, that kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is, it's not. It's less than perfect, and you're not going. It's definitely better than, I think, TV ratings, even though, the systems built against TV ratings proved to be quite effective for many, many years. But you're not getting the exact thing that you thought you were going to get. You need to understand all the different channels, all the different touch points, and you're going to have to accept that it's not going to be completely determinative. There's going to be estimates. There's going to be, I almost said problematic. Or propagandic. It's not going to be perfect, and media mix modeling is a far better answer than chasing last click attribution.
So you've seen the stage from all angles: journalist, marketer, rock musician, industry sage. If you had to pen one last lyric about the digital ag ecosystem, what would it say? Something raw, honest, and ready to outlive the next algorithmic shakeup?
AI does make me happy for a couple of reasons in ad tech. There are some, just take that from operations, ad operations, the ability to immediately deal with line items, all of these mundane tasks that were really holding back direct sales for publishers, audience targeting, creating better packages. I mean, how much of the the curation revolution right now that the SSPs are having a hell of a day in a good way? How much of that is in the background? I remember a few years back there was this really interesting company, the Index Exchange bot, that was doing traffic shaping and using AI that way. It's really going to open up, and even on the measurement front, it could change things greatly. AI-based, AI algorithmic targeting is the future. For so long in digital advertising, we were stuck with, are you doing contextual or are you doing audience targeting? But why wouldn't I do both? Why wouldn't I let an AI decide what's going to get the result that I want? The interesting thing there, though, the AI will improve all of the mundane stuff that we couldn't do. But what is it the advertisers actually want? What is it they think that's going to drive sales? Because not every time are they going to have the Google search ad, which led exactly to the cost per acquisition type thing. No, I mean, but it's also great on the measurement front, because then you can figure out the touch points. You're not always going to have perfect measurement on them, but AI can usually fill in the blanks. So yes, for a really tacky lyric, very not like my own music, which is, which I use as catharsis for dealing with my anxieties and fears. A great time for the thumbs up. I actually would be like, I have hope. I have hope for the future of digital media, and since I was a journalist by training and I love to read news, I have hope for the future there, especially even if, I will keep going back to brand safety blocking, because I know it drives pubs nuts. AI really does, there is potential there to make it better, get away from the keyword blocking, and actually have an AI that understands this would not be good for a brand's image. That would actually be very good customer reach, and the news article is not really going to be all that bad.
So if we replayed your career highlight reel, how did those experiences affect your approach to both risk and innovation?
I think I have always been very much on the forefront of, I have been very much a proponent of both big risks equal big rewards, as well as innovation. I mean, when I was at Ad Monsters in, it must have been 2015, 2016, Emory Downing Hall, now with Unwind Media, came to me and said hey, have you heard of this thing called tagless tech? It's really
Right.
weird. It has lots of tags. And I was like, okay. But he starts describing what we now know as header bidding. And just from the moment...
Which was going to change the industry, I thought. That's what I was told.
It definitely changed the industry. It has massively changed the industry. This is not the same place, and it changed it for the better. I know advertisers will complain. I know DSPs will complain about QPS and all that, the cost, but truth of the matter was, and it also did put a chink in Google's dominance. It made the waterfall obsolete, which the waterfall was an absolute nightmare, and it was not good. Really only good for Google, and Google kept finding ways to get around it with dynamic allocation, last look, and they kept doing little things to take advantage of the fact they had the ad server to screw over publishers, really, and really not doing a good service to the advertisers either. This is exactly why that whole trial exists. They were only in it for themselves for the detriment of both advertisers and publishers. So if you could describe.
So if you could describe your career as a film genre, what would it be?
Well, I got
a documentary, a sci-fi flick about an evolving digital species, maybe a jam session concert, film,
Well, it's got to be one
a
of those
mockumentary.
It does feel that way with ad tech, I'll tell you that.
No, we should do one. A mockumentary.
A mockumentary for ad tech.
For ad tech,
hilarious.
Fake ad company.
It would be so great. Even though I gotta say, I could never really watch Silicon Valley because I was like, this is work. This is exactly like work. I can't do this.
Yeah, I had one of our previous guests this week, said he just watches it all the time. He's like, this is my business. It's yesterday. Who was this?
I have to get away from that. But I would like to go. The investigative journalist who can't stop genre. I must find the truth.
Little film noir.
Oh, definitely. Old school. Yeah. Maybe like something right out of The Third Man or something like that. I could totally see.
Great reference.
Yeah. So as Joseph Cotton, trying to find out what happened to Orson Welles, I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, so a detective story, let's say.
So what's a crazy opinion you have about legacy thinking in media, that old guard mindset that we still drag along like a ball and chain? I mean, we all know that the adaptation in this industry is becoming slower and slower.
It is, and it's tough because I don't think there are a lot of clear directions forward. I mean, going back to Google saying they were deprecating the cookie, and I was like, okay, we gotta find alternatives for not just targeting, for measurement as well, because so much of it is cookie based. And then when they turned that off, it was just like, well, what are advertisers going to do now? Yeah, I always said you're going to have to third-party cookies from advertisers' cold, dead hands. It's tough. And identity solutions, they were very, very LiveRamp's wonderful. Live Intent. All of these identity solutions are great, but it's a limited amount of traffic. And the retail media is taking great advantage of that. But it's tough because even with header bidding, it was like every publisher was like, we need to get on that. We need to do this because it makes sense. The waterfall was terrible. This will help us monetize better. Yeah, it is tough at the moment. Can I circle back? I'm sorry. Where did we start off that? I went on too many tangents. Where did we start off that question?
A crazy opinion about legacy thinking in media. Call it out. Someone's got to say the emperor's wearing old sweatpants.
For publishers, it's definitely like one more ad won't hurt. One more ad, one more demand partner, one more stuff like that. It's like, no. At a certain point, the user experience is just detrimental.
Yeah, I was at speaking of Ad Monsters, I was at their publisher conference in Scottsdale, and publishers are pretty honest that they're very confused about the future is going to be for them.
I agree, and
they know that CTV and they know all the large companies like CNN are going to do great, but what about these mid-tier publishers? How are they going to monetize their content in the future? And they're scared.
They are.
Because they don't want to stick bigger banners or video ads and stuff. They want actual sponsorships.
Well, the toughest things for a publisher is balancing the user experience, or especially for publisher ad ops, the user experience versus the monetization, because their revenue goals are always going up. But there's only so much they can do on that front. Just adding more units to the bottom of a page. Oh, let's get in another chum box, that type of thing. Yeah, it's not going to work. And then even you have those video ad units that kind of follow you around on a page. This year we saw an explosion in malware coming through them because there's tons of arbitrage going on in that programmatic video space. I mean, to me, it's less about like legacy media than circular trends that we go through time periods where at one point it was all about premium publishers with direct sold inventory and programmatic. That was a remnant. My third day on the job at Adotas, I'll never forget this. I went to a Pubmatic conference, then some fledgling SSP, and people were like, what's an SSP? What do those guys do, actually? And the conference, the theme of it was, and this was 2009, second channel optimization. And, I kept asking people, what is second channel? And everyone was like, remnant. 15 years ago, the idea that programmatic ads would be on premium publisher front pages, never. But at the same time, I see a circular trend, and maybe I'm just totally wrong in this, but back to direct sold. And even though I think the curation trend or the SSP is pointing more towards, yes, advertisers are realizing, especially if they want to target, if they want to get in front of the audiences they need the most, when it comes to desktop display, mobile display, they should be going through premium publishers, direct sold inventory. Now, what you said about the mid-tier guys, that's a rough spot to be in. And that's where hopefully the curation is actually good. That maybe, and this was the thing with vertical ad networks back in the day, they could actually push up smaller pubs into getting bigger advertiser bucks. I think there's going to be a pushback to that. It's just, the question, and maybe the header is actually a good thing there, because that's stuff like, they would have struggled with the waterfall before. No longer a thing.
So why do you keep pushing forward?
I always studied to be a journalist. I'm that nerd who was the editor-in-chief of his high school newspaper. And I learned early on that, what makes news go round and news and information go round it's ad-supported. And there is no such thing as free content. Just like a free lunch, of course, you are opening the door to advertisers, giving them the opportunity to sell you something. This has been a quintessential part, I think, of media for as long as media has existed. Definitely hundreds of years now. I want to see this continue, and I think it's the best way to spread good information, for news to continue, and really for media to evolve. So that's what keeps it going forward, that I'll be goofy, that there is a brighter landscape out there, and we are, I don't even think, midway on the journey toward it. It's going to be a long, long path, but I see a future, and I want to work towards it.
And lastly, how do you hope your insights will steer the industry towards a future where trust, innovation, and creative expressions harmonize?
In particular, working with the media trust, I hope that what we're able to do is offer more insight into consumer experience and how caring about consumer, not just protecting consumers from digital harms, really caring about consumer well-being is tied to business, tied to good business. When the consumer is happy, content, and not being served redirects and told that there's a virus on their computer, call this number right now, then everybody benefits. It's a rising tide with good business. So that is consumer trust and safety. That's digital trust and safety. And that's what our insights are trying to prove, that this is good. Publishers hopefully don't have to put 8 million terrible ads on pages if they can just have longer user sessions, more engaged users, because the ads aren't bad. If ad tech vendors are known as quality marketplaces, they will get access to more high quality supply. And advertisers, if consumers feel safe going to their websites and don't feel like they're being tracked by 8 million vendors, their privacy preferences are being obliged, and their data is actually safe, and they're not going to get infected with various infections. Infected by malicious infection. Terrible. Anyway, then yes, it's good for everyone.
We get you to dance now?
Today's episode.
It's good. Dance now.
Big thanks to our sponsors, especially Incremental, for sticking with us for a full year of pure ad tech magic. We honestly don't know what we'd do without you. Also, Troutman Amin, thanks for keeping things as sharp as ever. A massive shout out to Gavin Dunaway, who not only cleans up the mess in digital advertising, but also dreams of escaping to a desert island with David Bowie and Kurt Vonnegut. Because why not? Who says you can't have rock stars and fraud prevention in the same sentence? Don't forget to check out Rembrandt.com, the real creative media disruptors. And if you need some video wizardry, hit up Sean Black at Dailymotion. Trust me, you want in on that action. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, stay bold, stay curious, and never settle for a boring ad. See you next time.